In the last video, I talked about how I managed to keep moving forward and stay positive, given since moving to Sweden to play volleyball, I'd been there for several months and was unfortunately on the bench of a losing team. Well, finally, one of those things was to change. So our next game, which was at home to Harbo, I actually started. Anyone particularly switched on in the audience will have worked out we still lost, but you can't have everything. So here we go. Let's look at this next game.
So firstly, I was buzzing for getting my first start. Whichever way you look at it, it's a big step forward and I was dead chuffed. And it's not a bad first rally to get us underway. Looking at my performance in general though, I have to say it was pretty average. That was not a particularly good pass, and unfortunately that was the trend for most of the rest of the first set. Not brilliant passing from me. I did get going as the game went on, but in the UK and so far in Sweden when I come off the bench, I can usually rely on my passing being pretty decent. That being said, I was pleased I didn't let it knock my confidence too much, and I still trusted myself to pass and didn't start hiding. I stayed aggressive and kept looking for the ball, which is how I passed my best. That ball was in, by the way. He swung clean over the top of the block. This is a great rally, by the way. I really love our coach Michael's celebration and generally just love all the energy coming off the bench. I'm doing myself slightly dirty here, including all of these errors, as that's another shank. But as I've said in previous videos, honesty and transparency are very important to me. I'm really not trying to hype myself up in this. I want to give a genuine depiction of how my life was playing volleyball, which unfortunately in this first set means showing quite a lot of shanks. Not all bad though, as we are getting some good rallies. I think my headspace also in this game was a lot better than in previous ones. So in some of my previous videos, I've talked about how I was too passive when coming off the bench. And even when by the stats I had a relatively decent performance, I wasn't really taking games by the scruff of the neck and making an impact. Admittedly, that's also somewhat the case here, but I felt much closer to it and less afraid of that role. I was much more willing to take risks and try to make an impact. Defense, blocking and attacking, I don't have too much to say on this video. I'll save those to talk about in the future. I'm going to shut up for a bit now, and you can enjoy some highlights from the rest of the game, and I'll come back in at the end with a few closing thoughts. I'm back. So in a couple of points' time, I unfortunately have a very bad miss on a pretty big point towards the end of this third set, which has been much closer. I get the ball versus a single block and spank it off the bat. The set is a little bit narrow, but I do a very bad job getting my feet to the ball, so I'm really reaching and lose all my height. The reason I bring it up though is my mindset immediately after this miss I think is quite interesting. I really felt like until that moment in this set particularly, I had a much better game, so I was really surprised to make the error, which I think if nothing else is a good sign you're in a positive headspace. The alternative mindset is potentially being something like, yeah, well of course I missed, or being blinded by rage or something like that. I personally think a sort of, damn, I actually can't believe I missed that, is a good thing, because it only happens when you're extremely confident you were going to make the shot. And unless that confidence boils over into arrogance, such that you weren't really trying or switched off and got cocky, I think that can only be a good thing. So yeah, it was a bad miss on a big point in the set, so not exactly ideal, but good to try and get the positives and learn from these things. Very surprisingly, I actually got MVP this game. I believe the MVP in Sweden is chosen by the sponsors, but I don't actually know how they make their choice. And you can see in a second that I don't particularly have a clue what's going on. And sure, it's a nice thing to happen, but I did feel a little bit hollow as I didn't really feel like I earned it in this game.
So there we have it. Thank you for watching. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel I cover all things volleyball, including my playing experience in Sweden. The story I'm telling in this videos are a little bit out of date at this point at the time of recording. So if you want to know what I'm up to in real time right now, then Instagram is the place to be. And then in the next video, we'll be looking at our first double away weekend, which is just a short trip down the road in Skåne. So if you don't want to miss out, make sure to subscribe.